What's happening, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Here on Wednesday, temperature has dropped significantly from what it was yesterday to what it is now, today. Uh, yeah, I mean, it was nice that the temperature was good yesterday because of the time that we spent standing outside waiting to get in the show. But today, we're probably about 10 to 15 degrees cooler than yesterday. The first thing that I saw this morning was actually a social media post. I can't remember from where because there's too many apps at this point. But let's just say it was a Instagram post that my sister made about my grandma, wishing her happy 90th. As I told y'all yesterday, we all celebrated her unofficial 90th in Canada a month ago, and now is her official 90th birthday today. So I hope she gets all the love, all the hugs. I wish I could give her a hug. I can give her love, but I cannot give her a hug. Air hug, because I'm just not physically in that location to be able to do so. Matter of fact, it's probably been a while since I've actually been in Canada on my grandma's actual birthday. It's been so many years. I was probably a child at that time. But anyways, I'm probably going to make a few grandma videos for the day because she deserves all of them. Hopefully when I call her, I'll be able to go through some of those with her. But anyone knows my grandma, she's way more popular than me. Her phone is way more popping than mine. Not her phone as in her actual phone, because she technically has a cell phone, but she uses a cell phone in the house. She's funny. She has a cell phone in the house basically for in case of emergencies. So, and to her, the emergency would be like if the power went out on her landline, then she would use that cell phone as a backup phone. I find that hilarious. Like, she doesn't use the cell phone outside of the house. Oh, I don't want to get it lost. When you have to call her for an emergency, you can't get her on the landline phone, just forget about it. She has to be in her home for her to answer that phone. That's why I have a thing where if I call her for 2 days straight and I don't get a call back or an answer, I'm immediately concerned, because the phone is it for her. The landline phone is it. So anyways, bye. Yeah, so anyways, y'all see me in this car all the time. I'm in this car so much at this point. As a matter of fact, I never even thought in my life that I would spend this much time driving for work. There was a time when I first learned how to drive where I was driving a lot because I was taking my car on long trips. I think the longest trip that I ever drove was, where was I going? Michigan. From New York to Michigan, and that is approximately, if there's no major traffic or slowdowns or anything, and the trip goes how it's supposed to go, probably about 16 hours. It took me about 22 hours because there was a hailstorm in the middle of my trip, and I didn't have any plans to stop or anything and stop in the middle, because I was just like, you know what, 16 hours, I'm just going to drive all the way. Like, I'm going to stop when I need to get gas, but this is going to be a 1 day trip. And I guess it was technically under 24 hours, but 22 hours. It did spill into 2 days, and it was very long. And when the hailstorm came in the middle, I had to go under this bridge because the hail was like huge pellets and everything. And me and several other cars were just parked under the bridge waiting for the storm to pass, and the visibility was extremely low. It was dangerous, to be honest. I should have pulled off the highway and found somewhere to stay for the night. But anyways, I kept going. But that's neither here nor there. So about the grandma part of it, my cousins and my friends and all these people, they were people who were just itching to drive. Like, their parents took them out, or whatever family members took them out to the parking lot, 13, 14, 15. So they already at least knew somewhat how to drive, and they were excited about driving. And I was not excited about driving because as a kid, I lived in an area where either my folks took me everywhere or I had myself a bike, and everything that I went to was in walking or driving distance. I would either walk or bike to school, to all the stores that I needed to go to. I could get to the mall on the bus. I knew how to use the bus by myself at a pretty early age. I don't know when other people started using the bus, but 9, 10, I could hop on the bus and get where I need to go. So I just never felt like an urgent need to drive a car, funny enough. But my parents, particularly my dad, felt like at a certain point, okay, this is driving time. This is the age where you're supposed to learn how to drive. And I was in high school at that time. I think that I was 17 or so. So he said to me, at the time my grades in school were really poor. So he said to me, if you manage to pull up your grades and graduate on time, because it was looking like, I was told by my my high school vice principal, like, there's no way that you're going to graduate with the rest of your class, which I took as a major challenge. And my dad told me, if you manage to pull yourself up and graduate with the rest of your class, I'm going to teach you how to drive so you can go get your driver's license. So I did. I picked up my grades. I graduated and I marched with my class. And then I was like, hey, Dad, I did what I fulfilled my end of the bargain. So are you going to fulfill yours? Like, are you going to teach me and take me out driving? And he was like, oh, yeah. He was a promise person. Like, he was a person who made me a lot of promises. He didn't keep most of them. But, I believe that he had good intent, but he didn't have a good follow through for sure. So every time I asked him, oh, next time, son, next time, I'm busy right now. I can't do it right now. Next time. So then I ended up going away for school, for college, when I was 19. And then, I'm away now, so there's no longer an option for him to really teach me how to drive. And I remember I did my 4 years, and then when I was done, I started seeing somebody who lived in Atlanta. The timing of all this was funny, and my grandma doesn't even know this part. She knows her part of this story, but she doesn't know this part of the story. She does know that I was in Atlanta and I was staying with my significant other of that time. So, but she doesn't realize the timeline. I was 22. I had my learner's permit, and I was about to go over because I was in this long distance relationship. I was about to go over to ATL, and what I was going to do in ATL was I was going to be staying with this person. It was supposed to be temporarily, um, while I get my life together, get myself a job, and then I was going to move out and establish myself over there in ATL, be in my own place, etc. Hi, crazy kids. So I remember that girlfriend of the time asking me, hey, do you have a license? I was like, yeah, I got a license. She's like, the license, right? You got an actual license? Because she said, the reason I'm asking you that is because for the time being, until you get the job, I only have one car. So I will need for you to like drop me to work, pick me up from work, because my sisters also need the car during the day. And also I'll need you to do some things with my daughter and my niece who are going to be there in the house. I was like, yeah, for sure I have a license. I didn't have a license. Things are going okay. I did not actually have a license. So, but I told her that I did. I lied. So around this time, my grandmother had contacted me and was like, hey, Mark, something that was on my mind, because this is, all of her grandkids can attest to this. She will give you a call and have a whole thing mapped out for you that she wants you to do. I mean, it's funny. I love her and I appreciate her, but I'm like, when do you have time to think about all these things for all these different people in your life, especially your grandkids and your great grandkids? So she's like, I was doing some thinking, and she said, you're a man. The legal driving age is 16 years old, and you're 22. Are you gonna drive or what? So I was like, yeah, eventually. She's like, I don't know when eventually is supposed to be, but your cousins are already driving. You're way past the driving age. Thank you, crazy kids, for the subscription. You need to drive. So I tell her, well, I'm waiting on my dad to give me some lessons like he said that he was going to. And she said, don't wait on your dad, because you could be sitting here waiting forever. Like, what does your dad do? When does he tell you he's going to do something and he does it? She's such a straightforward person. So that's what she said. And then she was just like, here's what I'm going to do. She said, there's driving schools, correct? I was like, yeah. So she said, what's about to happen is I'm going to send you some money in the mail. As soon as you get that money, or even before you get that money, you look up how much driving lessons cost from that driving school. You don't wait for anybody. You get the driving lessons right now, and whatever I give you and whatever extra it costs, you come up with the extra. I'm helping you start off with this money, and you pay whatever the additional costs are. And when that money comes, I'm going to be calling you and making sure that that money goes on what it's supposed to be going on. And then I'm going to call you to make sure that you've been doing your lessons. She was so adamant about that. So she sends me about $250. in the mail. And I think the driving school, let's say, cost about $500. So took her $250, added my own $250, and I went to the driving school. Green screen. I don't know how to turn that off. Oh, I know how to turn it off now. Yeah, so I did the 250. She gave me 250. I added 250, and then I had my 500. I took it to the driving school. I didn't really want to go to the driving school because actually driving rather scared me, especially driving in New York City. Because driving in New York City is a different animal than driving other places. But I got through it. Is the long and short of it. She took I skipped part of the story. She was telling me, she was like, Mark, how are you going to find a wife if you don't have a car? She said, when you have your own family and you have your own children, the man has to go and pick up the wife and drop her to work and pick her up and pick up the kids from school. You're a man, like, you know, that's what men are supposed to do. My mom has very traditional values regarding those things. Very, very traditional. So, anyways, I did end up getting the license, and I got it at that time because of her sending me that money and being so adamant. Because I remember my first driving lesson was an absolute disaster to me. I was so scared. I remember the guy telling me some simple things like just backing out of the driveway, and then I remember him just asking me, have you ever driven a car before? And that just made me feel like, oh, I must be terrible at this for a driving instructor to be asking me if I've ever driven a car in my life. I hadn't driven a car. I hadn't driven a go-kart. I hadn't driven one of those toy things those toy cars that you sit inside. Like, that was just not my thing. So, because of her, like I said, I ended up getting my license at that time because of her. So now when I got to Atlanta and I really needed that car and that license, I had it. Had the license. And what was the other thing I was gonna say? As you can see, I do at this point 75% of these lives within my car. Not because somebody asked me, are you just one of those people that just loves being in the car all the time? Nah, I don't. Like, when I had this fully remote job last year, was it last year? Yeah, I just started this job this year. Yeah, so when I had that fully remote job last year, my car was only taking me places if I wanted to go to those places. I was not someone who's like, oh, I just have to be in the car just to be in the car. I like driving and having a car just because it gives me control over my own schedule. I can get myself where I need to go and when I need to go there. But I wouldn't do Uber driver or whatever. I feel like this job is the most driving that I have ever had to do in my life at a job. And I had an actual driving job that I was signed up to do. Well, it wasn't so much a driving job as much as it was I was picking up elderly and handicapped people, and I was taking them to grocery shopping, post office, laundromat, places like that. But we spent more time at their locations than we spent in the car. And then also, they were not all over the place like that. They had to be within a certain radius of us for us to even service them. Whereas not with this job, I'm all over the place. I mean, not all of you know New York, so this is not going to be relevant to you, but I'm in Manhattan, I'm in Brooklyn, I'm in Queens, I'm in almost all the boroughs and Long Island. I could be 1 hour and a half in this direction, 2 hours in that direction. But basically, I need this car, and I have needed this car over the years because look at all the things that I have to do with the car. I basically live in the car at this point. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have gotten a license without my grandma, but when you think about it, like I said, I was 22. I had no urgency, and I live in a city that doesn't really require me to have a car. I lived here for a number of years without one. And I wasn't really that pressed about not having one. So it's possible that I could have been somebody who just went so many years not getting this license that I just didn't end up getting one. So that's one story that I can accredit to her. But I have many others. High Tricity. I have many others because, like I said, this lady was there when I was born. She was there before my dad was there because he was not there when I was born. So I lived with her for the first few years of my life, and when he came back here from Africa, I didn't know who he was, and my grandma had to explain, like, oh, this man is your father. He's not gonna harm you, don't worry about it, go with him. But she's been there all the highlights of my life, all the low moments of my life. You know, that's my ride or die right there. I know that I can always call her anytime. I can always call her whenever. She'll talk to me, she'll advise me, she'll send me money if I need money. You know, if I need a prayer for something. You know, and I know she's pretty much like that with everyone that she loves, which I am one. So that's all I got for right now. And I am 6, 7, 8 minutes away from my first client's house, but I'm gonna hop off now, and I'll talk to y'all later.